This is your lecturer, Dr. Dina Idris talking. This is the superior mediastinum and posterior mediastinum part 1. Plug in your headphones to hear audio. Parts and regions of the thorax. We have the superior boundary of the thorax. We have the jugular notch, here central jugular notch, sternoclavicular joint, superior border of the clavicle, acromial, and we have posteriorly the spinous process of C7. We have inferiorly the xiphoid process, the costal arch, the 12th and 11th ribs, the vertebra, and T12. The regions of the thorax are thoracic wall and thoracic cavity. Landmarks. We have the jugular notch, and this corresponds with the second thoracic vertebra in male and the third thoracic vertebra in female. We have the sternal angle, and this connects the second costal cartilage laterally. Here we have the second costal cartilage. It is attached at the level of the sternal angle, and it corresponds posteriorly with the lower border of the fourth thoracic vertebra. It has the bifurcation of the trachea in the adult at this level, the beginning of the aortic arch which ends posteriorly at the same level, and the esophagus is crossed by the left main bronchus at this level. The mediastinum. Concept: it is all of the organs between the left and right pleura, between the right and left pleura or mediastinal pleura. This space is known as the mediastinum. This space is called the mediastinum. It extends from the sternum in front to the vertebral column behind, and from the thoracic inlet above to the diaphragm below. Subdivisions of the mediastinum. The mediastinum is divided by an imaginary line at the level of the sternal angle and the intervertebral disc between T4 and T5 into superior mediastinum and inferior mediastinum. The inferior mediastinum is further divided by the heart and pericardium into anterior mediastinum, which is between the heart and pericardium and the sternum, and the middle mediastinum, which contains the heart and pericardium, and posterior pericardium, which is from the heart and pericardium to the vertebral column. The left side of the mediastinum. We have the root of the lung, we have the pericardium, we have the phrenic and pericardiophrenik artery, we have the left vagus nerve, we have the left recurrent laryngeal nerve here. So we have, this is the left vagus giving us the left recurrent laryngeal nerve here. We have, this is the thoracic aorta. Then we have the sympathetic trunk. Then we have the greater splanchnic nerve. We have, this is the aortic arch with its branches, the right the brachiocephalic, and the left common carotid, and the left subclavian. This is the left subclavian artery. Here, this is the thoracic duct. And here we have the esophagus. This is the esophagus. This is the right side of the mediastinum. And here we have the root of the lung. We have the pericardium. We have the superior vena cava. We have the phrenic and pericardiophrenik nerve and artery. So this is the pericardiophrenik nerve with the pericardiophrenik artery. This is the left vagus nerve. This is the esophagus. This is the azygous vein arching over the root of the lung. This is the sympathetic trunk. And we see here, this is the arch of the azygous vein arching over the root of the right lung. And we can see this is the trachea. And this is the inferior superior mediastinum, located from the inlet of the thorax to a plane extending from the level of the sternal angle anteriorly to the lower border of T4 vertebra posteriorly. Contents. We have in the superficial layer the thymus, and then after we remove the thymus we have three veins. We have the left brachiocephalic vein, and it's formed at the venous angle, which is the confluence of the left subclavian vein and the internal jugular vein behind the sternoclavicular joint, passing to join with the right brachiocephalic vein, which is also formed by the right internal jugular and right subclavian at the right sternoclavicular joint. They form, the right brachiocephalic vein is formed at the sternoclavicular joint. Behind the first costal cartilage, they give you the superior vena cava, which enter the heart at the level of the third costal cartilage. Middle layer, we have the aortic arch and its three branches. So we have the aortic arch and the brachiocephalic trunk giving us the right common carotid, right subclavian, left common carotid, and left subclavian. And we have the nerves. The nerves are phrenic nerve, and posteriorly we have the vagus nerve. So this is the phrenic nerve, and this is the vagus. Here we have the phrenic nerve, and this is the vagus giving us the left recurrent laryngeal nerve around the aortic arch, while this is the right vagus giving us the right recurrent laryngeal nerve around the first part of right subclavian artery. The posterior layer, we have the trachea and the esophagus and the thoracic duct. Here the aortic arch has been cut, and we can see here this is the left vagus arching around the arch of the aorta, giving us the left recurrent laryngeal nerve, while this is the right vagus arching around the first part of right subclavian artery, giving us the right recurrent laryngeal nerve. The left vagus will continue as the anterior vagal trunk, while the right vagus will continue as the posterior vagal trunk. Relations of the aortic arch. We have anteriorly and to the left we have the pleura, we have the lung, and we have the phrenic nerve. We have the pericardiophrenik vessels, and we have the vagus nerve. Posteriorly and to the right we have trachea, esophagus, left recurrent laryngeal nerve, thoracic duct, and deep cardiac plexus. We have superiorly 3 branches of the aorta, and we have the left brachiocephalic vein and the thymus. Inferiorly, we have the pulmonary arteries, the left principal bronchus, and the superficial cardiac plexus. Arterial ligament. The remnant of the ductus arteriosus connects the bifurcation of the pulmonary trunk to inferior border of aortic arch. This is known as the ductus arteriosus. Triangule of ductus arteriosus, bounded by phrenic nerve, left vagus nerve, and left pulmonary artery. Here we have the vagus nerve, left vagus, phrenic nerve, and left pulmonary artery. This is called the triangle of ductus arteriosus. Contains the ligamentum arteriosum, arterial ligament, contains the left recurrent laryngeal nerve and the superficial cardiac plexus. In the triangle of ductus arteriosus, which is bounded by phrenic nerve, left vagus nerve, and left pulmonary artery. Contents are the arterial ligament, left recurrent laryngeal nerve, and superficial cardiac plexuses. Triangle of ductus arteriosus, as we said, bounded by phrenic nerve, left vagus nerve, and left pulmonary artery. The contents are the arterial ligament, left recurrent laryngeal nerve, and superficial cardiac plexus. Inferior mediastinum is divided into anterior mediastinum, and that is from the pericardium until the sternum, and what we find here is fat, retrosternal fat, and some lymph nodes. Location posterior to the body of the sternum and attached costal cartilages, anterior to the heart and pericardium. Contents: fat, remnants of the thymus gland, and anterior mediastinal lymph nodes. This is the middle mediastinum, the location between the anterior mediastinum and posterior mediastinum. Contents: heart and pericardium, beginning or termination of the great vessels. Great vessels are the superior vena cava, the inferior vena cava, the pulmonary artery, and the aorta. So we have phrenic nerves also, pericardiophrenik vessels, and lymph nodes.